Storytime. My boyfriend tried to kill me so he could have my life insurance money. So I decided to go on Tinder to look for some potential matches. And lo and behold, a guy named Jared was there. He was adorable, he was charming, and we had multiple cell phone calls before deciding to meet. We met at Red Lobster and it was like fireworks. He was so romantic and looked like a 6-foot-something cowboy. He took me to a wildlife bird refuge after dinner and I instantly fell for him. We dated for months and everything was mostly good. However, he was just very pressuring for things. And I didn't want to take things too fast. I was 21 and he was 31. Eventually, this just gave me some bad vibes, so I decided to cut off the relationship. But a few months later, he called me saying that he couldn't forget me. He had been married before and his wife had passed away, so I felt very sympathetic towards him. He had a really nice job, making over $150K a year, and he said that all he wanted to do was take care of me and my child. So I moved in and things were good again. I would wake up in the morning, he would make me coffee, and I would help him with his kids. But I noticed that my weight was starting to go down. And that's when I realized he was putting something in my coffee. Follow me on Insta and stay tuned for part 2. Part 2 to my boyfriend trying to kill me to get my life insurance money. I was not feeling very well and my parents were extremely worried about me, especially once they found out I only weighed 88 pounds. I knew I had to have been really, really ill, so my parents drove down 5 hours to rescue me, and I was immediately hospitalized. That's when I was able to put together the full story on what was going on. He started putting all the money that he was making into my bank account, but he didn't let me have access to it. He would take out loans in my name, making it look like I was making money. And my life insurance policy added to $500,000. During this time in the hospital, I was going through severe withdrawals from whatever he was putting into my coffee. But the second I stopped drinking it, I started to gain weight back. I was thinking that maybe he had done this to his previous wife. However, when I looked her up, I found out that she was still alive. They were just divorced. Later, I was able to find out that they even moved back in with each other. Make sure you don't ever get too blinded by love to realize that you're being taken advantage of. Follow me on Instagram, and if you have a story, DM me. Storytime. Our house had to be cleansed of a demonic presence. I had just gotten out of a relationship that I had been in for 5 years. I had to pack up my stuff from his house, move out, and I was mentally all over the place. One of my friends that I'll either tag below or in the comments had just bought a house during this time, so it was kind of perfect for me to move in with her. The house was beautiful, had very cottage vibes, but there was something about the shed in the back, and I'll insert a picture. It was filled with religious symbols and Mod Podge all over the wall. There was lights in there like people were trying to grow, and it just seemed like a lot of teenage experimentation happened back there. But overall, the house was nice and was totally checked out by the inspector. Soon after I started to move in, that's whenever spots would occur on the ceiling. It was happening a lot on my side of the house as if there was water damage. However, we didn't know where the water damage was coming from and she had had the house inspected. This is when she started to have extremely vivid nightmares that bled over into the day. She would wake up and see shadowy figures hanging over her. I kind of just thought she was tired due to night shift at first, but that's when I got my first sleep paralysis episode. It gets way worse, so stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2 of our house being cleansed of a demonic presence. So my roommate's nightmares and hallucinations were getting worse and worse. When she would drive home from work, she one time literally thought someone was hurting themselves in the car next to her, and then would walk into the house and see something standing over her. But again, we just thought she was tired due to night shift. However, a few days later, I ended up waking up and not being able to move my body. All I could do was look around the room and I felt someone petting me. All I could do was lay there while this thing talked to me and pet my head. But I could never see her. And I know it was a her because it was a female's voice. This had me freaked out and not wanting to sleep for days. But soon I was able to get over it and forget it. One night whenever I came back with one of my guy friends, we walked into the house and from the back we heard, "Hey, are there any people here?" We both just looked at each other like, "Oh my god, did you actually just hear that?" Except I heard it in a female voice and he heard it in a male voice. He told me to stay right there and he scanned the area to make sure that there weren't any people there. And there weren't. We knew this was getting bad and we were going to have to call someone. So my roommate called up someone that she knew that did house exorcisms. The worst is yet to come. Add me on Instagram. Storytime. I was kidnapped by someone that I thought was a friend. So I was in desperate need of a girls trip, so I hit up my 3 friends that were outside of my state, Maggie, Sarah, and Amber. All fake names, obviously. I made plans and arrangements so that I could come visit them. Another friend of mine that knew them offered to drive me down. His name was Max. I was super thankful for this because my family didn't want me to drive there by myself. So I made sure they had his and my number before I took off. But the second that I got into the car, I had a really weird gut feeling. My stomach started to turn, but I didn't listen to it. I kept messaging my friends how excited I was to see them the closer I got, but then they just stopped messaging me. They wouldn't answer my calls either, and Max pulled me over to a gas station saying that we're about 30 minutes away from our destination. So I thought. I needed a bathroom break, so I went inside the gas station, but that's when Max took me by the arm and walked in with me. He wouldn't let me leave his side, even for a bathroom break, and that's when he took my cell phone away and I knew that I was in trouble. I still didn't say anything out of fear, but after we got back into the car, he gave me some juice and then I passed out. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2, I was kidnapped by someone I thought was my friend. So after drinking whatever he gave me, I woke up after a few hours, and I was not with my girlfriends. I was 3 hours away from my home, and I didn't know this at the time, but I was at his house. My family knew that they hadn't heard from me in hours and started to get worried. They tried to get a hold of me, but obviously couldn't because I didn't have my cell phone. So they called Max. And I literally watched this man answer his phone and say that he didn't know me and doesn't know what they're talking about. Almost immediately after this happened, the cops called him. And I have no idea to this day what the cops said to him, but whatever they did, it worked. He helped bring me back to my house safely. And come to find out, Sarah, Amber, and Maggie were all in on it. They knew that he was obsessed with me and planned it so that I would spend the weekend with him instead of them. We pressed charges, but he really only got a slap on the wrist, but he's not allowed within 50 feet of me or to live in the same town or city as I am. Even though this happened when I was 18, it still haunts me at 28. Please speak up if you feel like something is wrong. Follow me on Instagram and DM me your story just like this one. Storytime, my toxic best